So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's lesson, and today we want to venture on HTML. So the question is, what is HTML? So we're going to go through HTML, and this lesson is designed onto the beginners format. So if you don't know anything about HTML, don't worry, we will take you step by step until you understand HTML. And this first lesson is going to be theory, so we want to explain you and for you to understand what is HTML before we go to the next lesson, which is going to be practical based lesson. So don't worry about you not understanding HTML. This lesson will help you get more and start making HTML and also be able to build websites using HTML. So as we start, what is HTML? I know many people cannot explain, or some people cannot explain what is HTML. They use it, but they don't know every letter what it stands for. We have HT, then M and L. So what is HTML? So HTML is a hypertext. It stands for, the abbreviation stands for hypertext markup language. So this abbreviation fully has something to do with how the website operates. So when we talk about hypertext, these are links that link you to other web pages. That is where we get HT, hypertext. For example, if you are on Facebook and you click a link, then it takes you to another page. That is what we called hypertext. So HTML has an hypertext that can link you to other pages of the website. So another thing we have, the second one, is the M, markup. What is markup? So markup is a special character or a special tag used to mark parts of the pages. For example, we use tags to make a website or for a browser to understand your website or codes. You use what we called elements and tags. So these elements and tag is what makes up a markup. It's just a structure. It's made up of tags and elements. So when you use elements and tags, this is what we call a markup. So hypertext markup. Markup is the tags, elements that make up the HTML. Then we have language. Languages are rules that computer understand. So for example, you can speak English. That is the language that you understand. Likewise, also computer has languages that it understands. For example, we have HTML, we have CSS, we have JavaScript. These are languages that computer understand. So for you to be able to make your computer understand these languages, you have to study these languages. And here, the first language that we are going to study is called HTML. So as we said, hyper means linking. So these are texts that help you link to other pages. Then we have markup. Markup are made of tags and elements. So they are just programs that help your browser understand the meaning of what you're trying to do or what the computer is saying. Then you have a language, set of rules that computer understand. So HTML in full tells you a web browser. Okay, we have web browsers like when we talk about web browsers, we have different types of web browser. We have Chrome, we have Opera Mini, we have Explorer, we have Mozilla, we have Brave browser. These are browsers. So when you're starting to build a website, then basically you start with HTML, and understanding HTML is the founding of everything. So with HTML, actually, you have to understand it's the standard markup language for creating web pages. So for you to create a web page, you have to understand HTML. Okay. Number 3 it describes the structure of a web page. So HTML describes the standard of a web page. So describes the structure of a web page. So next we have HTML consists of a series of elements. As I said, elements are what makes up a markup language. That's why we say there are so many elements, and this is why we call it a markup language. Then HTML elements tells the browser how to display the content. Okay, so we're going to use these elements to tell the browser. So when you're making these elements, we're going to communicate with the browser to display the content that we are going to see or that will be displayed on our web browser. HTML elements label pieces of content such as a heading and paragraph. These are just tags. So we're going to learn about tags and links and elements as we proceed. So for you to start an HTML, you need to have an HTML structure. Just like someone who wants to, who has a building. So for you to start building, you need a land to build on. So HTML, for you to start in HTML, you need a structure. The structure is what we see on our screen. The structure always starts with a declaration, which is the doc type HTML. The doc type HTML is written in capital letters, doc type, then HTML. This shows that the version of HTML that we are using HTML5. So declaration defines that this document is an HTML5 document. So we have versions of HTML. The current version that we are using is version 5, which is written closing bracket doc type HTML with small letters. Then in the HTML structure, we have HTML itself, which is an element. This is the root element of HTML page that tells the browser that we are writing our codes in HTML. Then we have the header element. This contains the meta information about the HTML pages. We will look about the meta elements. Then we have the title of your page element, specifically a title for HTML page. So when you are on Facebook or TikTok or Twitter, you will see the tab written, the title of the tab that is open is written in HTML. Then we have the body element. This is where the container where your website will be in. Just like any other container, the body is the part that contains all the elements that are in HTML. Then we have the H1. These are just tags. We have them, there are so many. Then we have the P tag. These are just the elements of HTML that makes a tag. So H1 is a tag, P is a tag. So we'll show you the difference between an element and a tag. So as we continue to cross over to our practical lesson, I guess now you know what is HTML, and using HTML will be our next step as you're going to make your first website in HTML. Thank you very much, and stay tuned as I take you to our next step, which is HTML. See you in the next lesson.